Good evening. Good evening. Hey, fantastic. Thank you all for being here, out there. Things are falling over. That's fantastic. My name is Dr. Ben Pyle. I am the director of the Alabama Forensic Council here at the University of Alabama. That's basically a long-winded version of saying that I'm the director of our speech and debate team. So this is our pre-national showcase. We have multiple national tournaments that we attend each year. But I'm also kind of a liar in that we've already gone to one national tournament this season, this past weekend, in which our team won. So that's great. So yay! So this evening, we are in preparation for leaving you all next week for warm, balmy, wonderful Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's wonderful for anyone out there that is watching on the live stream. I love Wisconsin. But for you all being here this evening, it's really great preparation for our students to be able to get used to speaking to a larger crowd that way. And also, they're excited to share their messages with you. So we have 3 different genres of public speaking events that we compete with at our upcoming national tournament. We also engage in debate. But those 3 are 1, oral interpretation of literature, which is more of a theatrical production. So if you've seen any stage plays, our students are going to be using black books while they perform those, not because they don't have them memorized, but because that is supposed to be evocative of the literature that they're performing. We also have limited preparation speaking, in which our students will have a limited amount of time to construct and then deliver their speeches. We'll see some of that later on. And then we have public address, which, how many of you are in a public speaking class right now? Hey, fantastic. Is it your favorite? Crickets on that too. Okay. But you're going to get to see some versions of maybe some speeches that you have been assigned in some of your classes that way too. But who's tired of hearing me talking? I am. Now, thanks. Now we're going to get on to our performers. Our first one is Ella Seaton. If you wouldn't mind coming on down. Ella will be performing a dramatic interpretation. Take it away.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard this before, but we have got to be on our best tonight. We potentially have a franchise quality control person, Robbie, coming. So my food people, we're going to be extra careful. And my counter people, we're going to do drops right on the hour. Right? And I know we're down a person, but if there is ever a time you don't have a customer, I need you to be clean, clean, clean. And that means you too, okay? Get to work. Connie, look at this condiment bar. This And we don't want it looking like that if the secret shopper comes now, do we? And Kevin, I told you to get off the counter and to refill your topping station. And Becky, what did I tell you about cleaning? Hello, South End. Yes, I am the manager. My name is Sandra from. Is this about the freezer? Stealing. And this happened at the South End store today. Blonde, 19. Becky. Am I helping the matter? Well, sure. Fear drives us to obey figures of authority. A 2023 article published in the Journal of Criminal Research by Rasieg and colleagues argues, our internalized sense of obligation to obey police directives upholds our cultural legitimization of policing. On April 9th, 2004, a man called a Kentucky fast food restaurant from a payphone. The caller, posing as a police officer, accused an employee of stealing, while implementing the store's manager in a line of questioning for his own entertainment as he watched from afar. Screenwriter Craig Zobel's account of this incident poses the vital question: just how far are we willing to go to satisfy this need to obey? Compliance by Craig Zobel. Bree, I need you to cover for me for just a minute. I've got to take Becky to the back for some questions. She stole from somebody. I can't say anything more than that right now. Becky, I need you to come with me for just a minute. Bree is going to cover your station. Don't worry about it. Becky, I have a police officer here on the phone telling me that you stole from somebody, telling me you took money out of a customer's purse. Hello, officer? She's saying she didn't steal anything. He wants me to check your pockets. Why don't you just show me what's in your pockets so we can get this over with, okay? There's nothing. Do you have a cell phone? I need to hold on to it just for the time being, okay? Officer, there's nothing in her pockets, and I do have her cell phone. Do you have a purse? I'm going to put you on hold for just a minute, okay? Come on, honey, I've got to go check your purse. Becky, if it turns out you've stolen anything, you know I'm going to have to fire you right on the spot, right? I'm sorry, honey, but you know that we have to take things like this seriously. Then why do I have a police officer calling me, describing you exactly, giving me your name, telling me you stole from somebody? What am I supposed to do with that? Does the zipper part open? I guess I'm supposed to take this with me. Officer, there's nothing in her purse, nothing in her pockets. Now, listen, she has been a good person here at this restaurant. Well, no, I'm not saying all that. I'm just saying that I've never had any problems with her before. Yes, I understand that, and I'm willing to do whatever it is you need me to do. I'm not quite sure that I'm comfortable with that. Okay, okay. He's saying that he'll probably have to take you down to the station. You'll probably have to spend the night there. Or I could perform a strip search here. Bree, I need you to cover for me for just a minute. I've got to call Robbie. Robbie, this is Sandra from the South End store. I'm calling about the theft situation. About my employee that stole. Officer Daniels said he'd been talking to you on the other line the whole time. You haven't been talking to Officer Daniels. Of course, I feel guilty for what I did. And I feel just horrible about what happened to Becky. But we were very busy and I was very stressed. And anytime I had a question, he had an answer for me. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I thought that I was doing the right thing. And she agreed. She agreed to the search and she agreed to everything.
Thank you so much, Ella.
Yes, please come on in. So we're going to shift gears now to public address. And this event is called After Dinner Speaking. Many of you may not have eaten like me right now, but that's not where we get the event name. The idea of it is that this speech is supposed to be funny in nature. We'll see. Please welcome Rebecca Langford.
When my mom was my age, she was engaged. I am on Tinder. Our college experiences are very different. My mom was asked, "Will you marry me?" I get asked, "Can I climb you like a tree?" So I decided to delete Tinder and download Hinge. I spent hours mulling over the prompt. My love language is. After careful consideration, I finally landed on info dumping about architecture. I got some crazy responses. One guy just said, according to CNBC on October 29, 2022, the founder of the 5 love languages, Dr. Gary Chapman, isn't a psychotherapist. He's a Baptist preacher. I responded, "Can I use that for my ADS?" In addition to being created by a sexist Keebler elf, the Washington Post on January 15, 2024 reports, "There's no evidence the 5 love languages exist at all. Unfortunately, they're everywhere." The Guardian on February 13, 2023 explains, "Chapman has sold 20 million copies of his book worldwide, and it's been translated to 49 different languages." That's 245 love languages, y'all. For millions of people taking Chapman's official quiz, to hashtag love languages reaching billions of views on TikTok, interacting with this disproven concept is inevitable. We must analyze the 5 love languages, their effects, and the future. Because if you love this speech, you shouldn't give me words of affirmation. You should answer this question. No one ever tips me. Second to the tree climbers, my most frequent DM request is about D1 babies. I do not want D1 babies. I'm just trying to get somebody to take me on a coffee date so I don't have to pay for my $8 latte. Let's look at the origin of the 5 love languages and what's scientifically accurate. First, how the love languages started. In 1967, Dr. Gary Chapman became a preacher and started administering couples therapy. Like any boomer on Facebook, he told the New York Times on August 29, 2022, he wanted to divorce his wife. But what he found his wife and other people said they needed from their partners fit into 5 broad buckets: words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And in October of 1992, the 5 love languages were born. Ew, it's a millennial. When asked if it bothered him that his theory lacked an academic underpinning, Dr. Chapman told the New York Times on November 9, 2011, "Most people don't want to read an academic book on marriage. The normal person wants to know, what's going to help me?" Honestly, I don't think normal people read at all. Next, what science says. Dr. Chapman is a lying loser. Okay, science didn't say that, but the aforementioned Guardian reports 3 studies, including one that used Chapman's official love language quiz, found matching love languages didn't lead to greater relationship success. Chapman's theory is built on couples being more successful if they have matching love languages or work to speak their partner's love language. However, Chapman was like SZA on Twitter. He just made that shit up. A study published in the Current Directions of Psychological Science Journal on January 12, 2024 reports, people express love in far more than 5 different ways, such as supporting a partner's autonomy or goals outside of a relationship. You can buy my new book, 81 Million Love Languages. Yeah, this one is backed by science. My mom said it can't be that hard to find people to date on campus. So I started looking at my classes. There was a guy in the front row watching porn on Twitter. We're going out next week. 2 effects. First, our lack of context. Dr. Chapman wrote a book he thought people would read, not one with any academic credibility, and it has spiraled out of control. Kind of like my screen time, I hit 27 hours yesterday. The New York Times on August 29, 2022 explains, the term love languages has evolved into a cultural phenomenon and a shorthand for anything that brings a person joy. The popularity of the 5 love languages has caused us to accept it as reality. I'm trying to start a rumor that I'm really cool and funny. I hope it catches on. The Nation on November 1st, 2022 argues, the erasure of context on social media flattens complex issues to be more digestible to a large audience and spreads rapidly. It's fun to call your ex a narcissist because they blocked your phone number and Instagram and Venmo. But that doesn't mean it's accurate. Next, in a turn of events that surprises literally no one, this Baptist preacher is problematic. The aforementioned New York Times recounts a marriage conference where Dr. Chapman stated, men are driven by physical needs and women by emotions. Finally, someone understands that I'm just so emotional and cry all the time because I am just a woman. The Times furthers. Dr. Chapman advised a woman to have sex with her husband in order to reconcile her marriage. In her 2021 dissertation on evangelical purity rhetoric, Dr. Victoria Hauser explores evangelical self-help texts and how they uphold gender roles and expose women to sexual violence. By stating that men are driven by physical needs, then promising relationship success to those who submit to their partner's love language, Dr. Chapman normalizes sexually coercive rhetoric and endangers vulnerable women. People are far more complex than Chapman refused to be. I like giving gifts and hugs. I will talk your ear off about my favorite building. I have nightmares that people will buy historic homes and strip them of all their charm. I'm complex. Which is why I decided to end this speech with one solution and one implication. First, it's time to ditch Hinge. It's the app that's designed to be deleted. Because it sucks. Not because you found love. You definitely aren't finding love on there, Blake. Both Hinge and Bumble have official features to share your love language. Both market themselves as more progressive dating apps. I have an email template to send to both apps, explaining the background of the 5 love languages and why it's harmful to be included on an app that markets itself as a safer place for women. I also have stickers with a fun little slogan to spread this information around. It says the 5 love languages is evangelical propaganda. You can stick it on your laptop or an unsuspecting stranger. I guess you don't have to delete Hinge. Blake probably should. Together, we can end the reign of this troll and his made-up love languages. Finally, how do we interact with pop psychology in the future? Because cutting bangs and dating a man with a mullet is not going to help your anxiety. The conversation on May 3rd, 2021 argues, pop psychology has the power to make complex information more accessible in order to improve lives, advising consumers to be vigilant about understanding the background and academic validity of the concept. Yay! All you have to do is read up on all the research and the researcher and any harmful social implications the pop psychological concept may have. Unfortunately, The Atlantic on March 13, 2023 found Americans have developed an information addiction in the pursuit of being more socially responsible, causing adverse effects on their mental health. We spend hours speaking and engaging on how to improve society, but how do we balance trying to be better while also prioritizing our own mental well-being? After analyzing the background, effects, and future of the 5 love languages, it's clear. Dr. Chapman and I don't know anything about love. It's time we start listening to the experts. Like my mom. She says I'll find my soulmate one day. She's not so sure about Blake, though.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
We're going to shift back to oral interpretation of literature with prose interpretation. So Marky Whitney is going to be performing a short story that was not meant to be read, or was not meant to be said, it was meant to be read. So she's going to do a good job anyway. But for me, Rebecca, my love language is applause for our students, welcoming them up. So please, welcome Marky.
This is the most awkward part, and it doesn't get less awkward in competition. This is just how it is. Awkward.
Mrs. Holtz, I know this was a favor, like extra credit, but if you give this assignment to anyone else, maybe you could just let them retake the Hamlet midterm. I know. You said you wanted to make this easy on me, that all I had to do was write a paper about my life and what I do and my mom, and you'd give me credit for your English class. And you said you'd show the paper around too, if I did a good job. Try to talk my other teachers into giving me credit, so I tried to put in some math and science and stuff in for them. And listen, I really appreciate it, but I thought I should let you know this wasn't easy. I mean, not knowing what to say about Hamlet, that's one thing. But this is embarrassing. You just telling me, write what I know. And me still not knowing how to go about it. And 15 to 20 pages is a lot. So I used some pictures. I hope that's okay. Whether it's through professors, advisors, coaches, or judges, as students, we often believe our success depends on others' validation. Psychologist Jennifer Crocker explains, as a result, nearly 80% of college students attach their self-worth to academic validation. The Center for Communication in July 12, 2023 elaborates, when we prioritize academic validation over well-being, we can easily overlook our inherent brilliance. Author Caitlin Horrocks navigates when our lived experiences don't easily fit into ideals, arguing degrees and validation mean little without wisdom. It looks like this, by Caitlin Horrocks. This is where I live. The paper the other day said, based primarily on local tourism, rural communities are sinking or swimming. And then my mom said, sinking or swimming? This fucking town was built underwater. I hope it's okay I put that. Now that my mom can't handle the stairs anymore, she's pretty obscene. But maybe you could show this first part to Mr. Snyder and Mr. Kinnad. My last semester, I took geography and civics, so they might like to know, can read a map. And sometimes I follow what's in the paper. Oh, I'm writing this at the library, and the librarian said I have to cite this. Just like this. It's where I got the maps from. This is my house with a garden, a few chickens. Roosters are sons of bitches. And that's not what my mom says. That's what I say. Because I'm the one that's got to go out there. And they're out there. Just, pecking me to death. I mean, we knew it was coming with my mom. I said she should pick between upstairs or downstairs, so we'd be ready when she couldn't really go in between. I have to wash her now, but I mean, for a while, she could really take care of herself, it's harder now. But I have a job. I make quilts. And if I sold this quilt, it might go for $250 at the Treasure Mart. And that's $250 minus $60 for fabrics and threads. Divided by 150 hours of work, I mean, that equals $1.27 an hour. I mean, I could do better driving to the Walmart, but I can't work outside the house because of my mom. But please show Mr. Martin I do math like every day now, way more than in his class. And I don't have a picture of my mom.
She would not let me take one, but she's got blue eyes and brown hair that used to be really long. And I could tell she was sorry when I had to cut it, but she was sorrier to need me to have to brush it and tie it back. So this probably works out best for both. Her hands got bad first, and then her feet, then her ankles. She can't use her hands at all anymore, and her hands, they look like this. But those aren't her real hands. This is a citation. And I thought about what I could put here for Mr. Sampson, but I honestly don't do any physics. Maybe you could tell him I know about biology. I mean, I know my mom's hands are messed up because her synovium is swollen, which is the name for the lining around the joints. See, her cells divide and then thicken. And that releases enzymes that eat at her bone and cartilage. It means she's being digested from the inside, and even if the anti-inflammatories started working and she was in less pain, I mean, she'll never use her hands again. An early onset rheumatoid arthritis, it doesn't kill anyone. You just get older. Your joints get more digested, and there is nothing anyone can do for you. You know, my mom is 45, and she says, I wish something would kill me sooner or later. And I say, don't say that. And then she says, well, do you want to spend the next 30 years of your life helping me off the toilet? And of course, I don't. But I don't say that. I think it was soon after that I saw you in the Kroger, and you asked about me. And you said it was a shame I had to leave school without finishing my last semester. And I said, I guess. But I don't know what I would do with a diploma anyway, since I am not headed for college and I can't work outside of the house. But then you said it would just be a nice, important thing for me to have done. And then you told me to write this paper and you'd see what you could do. And I'm not telling you this because I think you had forgotten, but just that it was a really nice, important thing for you to have done, and that even if this paper turns out not to be good enough, I wanted to say thank you. I realized I know a lot, which made me remember one more thing Mr. Sampson might like to read about, because he taught us a lot about marine biology. So he might like to know that if I could make any quilt, I would make one where the top is all one color. So when you saw it from afar, you would think, oh, how boring. But then when you got close, you would see one of everything that lived in the sea. Giant squid, octopuses, and the kind that live down that have like the lantern. It's like, but only from up close. From far away, it wouldn't look like anything. Just look like this.
Thank you so much, Marky. We're going to stick with oral interpretation of literature with poetry interpretation next. Casey Looper is going to be performing a program of poetry, meaning that he is going to be weaving together multiple poems into something more unique that way too. So please join me in welcoming Casey Looper.
In the realm of art and expression stage lies poetry, captivating hearts with its age. Yet behind the curtain's alluring sway rests the paradox of how it can constrain. In vibrant worlds, poems come alive, characters dance, our emotions shine. But under the surface, secrets reside. For thespians' wings are sometimes tied. As a teacher, I've embarked on several educational endeavors before, but this lesson, this one feels different. Oh, amidst a quiet room of anticipation, the class is alive with the energy of curiosity, a tapestry of your diverse minds, ready to embrace this new language. It's harder for deaf people out in the world because this world is designed for hearing people. The deaf do double the work. Poetry helps me express myself. It makes me feel alive. But my poetry is different. It uses American Sign Language. Using your hands is not speaking. It's just movement. So speak. While performing arts has been celebrated as a powerful medium for expression and connection, the spaces they occupy do not seem to connect with all communities. The Seattle Times in 2023 explains, performance venues across the country are not always an accessible space for the deaf and hard of hearing communities. These spaces not only create financial and physical restriction on the community, but create social burden for them as attendees and performers. And our space is no different. In our activity, the American Forensic Association reinforces these norms with their mission statement, which highlights the promotion of excellence in advocacy through oral expression. How can we begin to restructure our concepts of performance when our own organization mission fails to recognize not all forms of expression come from our mouths? So, with the poetry, ASL is Poetry by Looper, A Caged Poet by Udensky, Spoken Without Words by Douglas Rudolph, and So Speak by Marlon Matlin. A program. Because in order to embrace accessibility and empowerment, we must first redefine poetic performance. So I asked them what they know to start their day. Okay, I see some signing their A, B, C, and greetings we all know. I see the infamous, but that's not ASL, and you know it. Okay, we need to fix this. Let's bring your P hand down to your lips. We want to sign pink, not penis. So be careful. Class, ASL is found in silence. It's not bound by rhyme nor vocal sound. It's just in English poetry, you have rhymes and patterns of verbal repetition. ASL poetry is more about movement, of visual expression. My face alone counts for 50% of my poetry. You see, class, we're not just learning new vocabulary rules, and we're not just learning new grammar rules. This is why I'm nervous to teach this lesson. We're entering a world where our hands become the storytellers, and our expressions are the connection of poetry. And that's why this lesson's called ASL is poetry. Bound by scripts, a predetermined stack, artists yearn to be off the beaten track. Yet the lines, like chains, confine our flight, limiting the scope of creative rights. My students start to look at me in confusion. They don't understand. I'm teaching something that's not even recognized or even understood. And they start whispering and asking questions. How can you rhyme without your voice? How can you have rhythm without your voice? How can you speak life into poetry without your voice? The theater is a structure, a well-defined cage. It dictates the norms, discouraging change. But innovation will struggle to find its way as traditions linger, insisting they stay. I don't think you're reading my lips. I'm not trying to force you to pass as hearing. I'm trying to give you the ability to function in our normal world. So speak. ASL class is a language made up of visual expression and rhymed movement. Meets poetry, a world of expression and connection. And that's why this lesson's called ASL is poetry. But the hearing world likes to restrict you and says you can't have both of them. Class, why do we let the hearing world define what is or isn't poetry? Will the vibrations of my voice not soothe your semicircular canals? Is it so unsatisfying that you must use your hands? Why use your hands when you could wrap machinery around your ear? So speak. When ASL is translated into English, 95% of my poetry is lost in translation. It's an unspoken language, but it's a language of light. The words might be at rest, but the conversations are alive. When ASL takes form, it's a visual riot. So sign with me, class. ASL is poetry. No, if you want to speak to me, you will learn my spoken language. Using your hands is not speaking. It's just a movement, and you will be nothing in this world unless you speak. So speak again, class. ASL is poetry. I'm sorry. There's no closed captioning for this part of my poetry. So speak. Is it so unsatisfying that I use my hands? Is it just movement to you? My purpose in life is to ensure that ASL poetry goes beyond me. I want to show the world the sophistication of ASL poetry. So, class, please sign with me. ASL is poetry.
Thank you so much, Casey.
Our next speaker is going to be performing a public address event. So just like we all learned ASL together, we're going to be learning some more with an informative speech. So please welcome Sabrina Richard.
George Peppo, CEO of Bao, wants something more from the food he consumes. He looks for foods with the umami of a Dorito and the flavor density of an Oreo. His company works to make foods the modern world has never seen before, finding perfection in a lab. The Atlantic on July 29, 2023 explains, meat alternatives have been making a rise, and modern breakthroughs in science have culminated to lab-grown meat. This cultivated or cultured meat has been growing in popularity in gastronomy labs, and soon, supermarkets near you. Sentient Media on January 26, 2024 explains, food scientists grow animal stem cells into muscle and fat combinations, creating meat that is indistinguishable from the real thing. No raising or slaughtering needed. And the FDA has already approved the selling of lab-grown meat in the United States. Considering AP News in January of 2024 details, over 150 startups around the world are developing cultivated beef, lamb, poultry, and more. It's time we take a look at what lab-grown meat is, how it's making a rise, and implications. Meat is an ecological threat. Labs like George's might have an alternative. What is all this culinary commotion about? Meat. It's what's for dinner. Whether farm to table or testing to tasting. Let's take a look at current meat industry standards and techniques for lab-grown alternatives. First, the meat industry operates relatively autonomously. The American Institute of Economic Research on April 20th, 2022 explains, meat is relatively affordable now because the government subsidizes the meat industry, spending almost $40 billion annually. Subsidies reduce the price of meat. A Big Mac should cost $13, but it doesn't reduce the toll on those within the industry. Furthermore, communities near these farms often suffer from ecological effects, such as gastro and respiratory health issues, often linked to animal waste. Meat isn't even necessary for a balanced diet. Huffington Post on March 29, 2023 explains, meat does not have a monopoly on nutrients like protein, iron, and zinc. Red meat is also inflammatory and contains saturated fat, often contributing to heart disease. The meat industry can deceptively push its products, but alternatives are stepping in. Next, the process of cultivating meat. Nature on July 4th, 2023 explains, food scientists take stem cells from an animal and feed them nutrient mixes made of amino acids and carbohydrates. This encourages muscle and fat growth, creating meat. This process has been done successfully numerously. With commercial interest in lab-grown meat rising, innovation is following. One researcher is studying the switch from stem cells to fast-growing fibroblasts, also known as the weeds of cell culture. Another study published from the Cell Report Sustainability on January 26, 2024 reports, but scientists have found a way to modify bovine stem cells to feed and replicate themselves, essentially cutting 90% of the cost. Well, over $8 million in research grants have been given to meat cultivating labs, creating an industry prioritizing constant advancements. Now that we know about both farm-raised and lab-grown meat, let's see how startups are turning petri dishes into palatable dinners through mammoth-level environmental concerns and upsides in good meat's health. First, Lab-grown meat has been popularized with mammoth-level strategies. Vow, Georgia's food science startup, recently went viral for their lab-grown meat. The Atlantic, on March 30th, 2023, explains, Vow created a giant meatball made from lab-grown mummified woolly mammoth. While not made for human consumption, Vow's goal for the mammoth meatball was to highlight how lab-grown meat is the next step in a more sustainable food industry. The Smithsonian, in March of 2023, continues, the meat industry uses billions of acres of land and creates 30% of global emissions. Meat cultivating labs use far fewer resources, so they can help the agriculture industry reduce its carbon footprint. While made for stunt and social media purposes, the mammoth meatball sparked discussions surrounding the future of food. Next, 2 FDA-approved startups targeting the health and hunger of communities. Upsides and Good Meats, 2 startups, have recently received FDA approval and can begin selling their products in the United States. Upside has started selling to private restaurants before moving into the commercial industry, while Good Meats has been selling in Singapore since 2020, helping them through regional chicken shortages. They are both still awaiting USDA approval, which is standard for all poultry sold in the United States, whether farm-raised or lab-grown. These startups are also honing in on making meat healthier. Huffington Post on March 29, 2023 explains, food scientists can pick and choose which cells get included in their cell culture, so they can reduce the cells that have harmful cholesterol and saturated fat, making healthy meat. George Peppo's company has successfully cultivated both chicken and mammoth, which he described to the aforementioned Atlantic as like a Toyota or Bugatti of food science. His next step is to create something unexpected, like a spaceship of food science. This brings us to 2 implications: our culture of meat consumption and cultivating cannibalism. First, lab-grown meat recontextualizes the morality of meat consumption culture. Professor of sociology at the Austrian Academy of Sciences, Friedhofen and Gesser explains, the importance of meat is not limited to its nutritional value. Religious diets often follow rules surrounding the preparation and type of meat consumed. Washington Post on January 29, 2023 explains, religious authorities offer lab-grown pork could be considered kosher or halal, allowing those following religious diets to freely try it. However, Ella Marshall, representative of the Vegan Society, told Wired on February 19, 2023, vegans cannot officially support lab-grown meat because animals are still used in its production. While religious authorities may support lab-grown meat, vegan authorities don't, effectively ignoring the environmental progress lab-grown meat offers. Cultivated meat opens the door for a change in meat consumption culture, but only if we'll eat it. Finally, lab-grown meat could mean human steaks. If you could eat human meat knowing no one suffered to make it, would you? The New York Times on December 7, 2020 explains, artist Orkin Tellin collaborated with biophysicist Andrew Pelling to create an installation containing lab-grown human meat. Pelling offers it's an absurd solution to a serious problem, and it's causing some to really think about their meat consumption. Dazine on November 13, 2022 furthers, lab-grown cannibalism could be a reality. If meat consumption remains at its current rate, there may come a point where even subsidies make it unobtainable. So there may be some who have no other option than to cultivate meat from themselves. While absurd at face value, lab-grown meat could make cannibal steaks a reality, not contained to a museum. Lab-grown meat was first introduced to the public in 2013. More than a decade later, it has grown into an industry ready to take the world by storm. Cultivated chicken could be sold in US grocery stores later this year. After looking at what lab-grown meat is, how it's making a rise, and implications, we understand how important innovation really is for something as simple as a hamburger.
Thank you so much, Sabrina.
Our next event, we're returning back to oral interpretation of literature, except this time, we're going to have two people perform at the same time. So the way duo interpretation works is they're both going to be holding their books, but they cannot look at each other or touch. So they're going to be having offstage focus that way. You'll catch on whenever you see it. Well, let's go ahead and welcome the two Jadens, Jaden Kennedy and Jaden Silver.
Hey, can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure. Go for it, I guess.
So my bar manager downloaded this dating app for me. And
Not the bar manager.
yeah. Ever been to Thigh High?
The gay bar?
That's my bar.
No fucking way, really?
Yeah, I actually perform there. You should totally come sometime.
I would love to come. I mean,
Anyways, so I was texting this guy and we really hit it off. We were supposed to have our first date tonight and he blew me off.
Let me see your text messages. I'm good at this.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming.
I'll just be single till I'm dead.
Well, what about after you're dead?
Freddie Mercury's waiting for me in heaven. So, why are you here instead of your friend's baby shower?
So the last time I hung out with them, I actually managed to convince one of them that if you feed your baby gluten, your baby's gonna turn out as gay. And I swear, I watched them struggle with the moral implications of that for like 3 hours. I don't know. They just seem content, I guess.
Okay. So you're single.
Yeah. What about you? Got any ex-husbands or illegitimate sperm floating around out there?
No. Single gay man. 1 adoption fell through and 2 surrogacies didn't take.
Oh. How does one even become a surrogate?
Why? Are you in the mood for some countercultural extreme sperm?
Are you asking?
What?
As progress for same-sex parenting and reproductive rights continue to be fought in and out of the courtroom, one group is still being left out of the conversation entirely: surrogates.
A 2022 study from the National Library of Medicine reveals just how taxing a surrogacy relationship can be, as both surrogates and parents-to-be navigate their expectations for the relationship. Both parties often go with their needs unmet due to insufficient communication.
Screenwriter Morgan Angari explores the complexities of managing these relational expectations, ultimately asking, can both parties prosper if neither of them are truly heard? Milkwater.
By Morgan Angari.
Never have I ever given a rim job.
Oh, fuck you! Never have I ever shown to a stranger's drag show.
Okay. I feel like once you start talking about having a baby with someone, your acquaintances at the very least. But you know, I have been thinking about it.
Thinking about what?
Well, I do declare I'm but a spinsterful old single maid whose hips have yet to bear in a single babe.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have mentioned it if I wasn't.
Milo, we hardly know each other. We need to sign up a contract or something at the very least.
Yeah, I'll sign whatever. But that's not why I want to do this.
Look, it's not fair that you want to be a dad and you have all these shitty parents out there and you just don't get to be one. And
Milo, I don't know.
I feel like I can do something bigger than myself. So never have I ever had a baby.
Roger?
Milo?
Roger?
Milo?
Oh my God.
I'm gonna be a father. Let's talk about compensation.
No, Roger, that's not why I want to do this, remember? What about Renee?
Too French.
Okay, what about Jack?
Too basic.
Okay, what about Eddie?
Eddie?
Okay, fine. Voldemort.
You know, I am trying to parent beyond pink and blue anyways.
I'm in the corner watching you kiss her. Whoa, I'm over here. Get up, yes, hey. How are you? Oh my God, you did amazing.
Milo?
I just wanted to stop by and show the baby.
What are you doing?
I just wanted to stop by and see you perform.
Milo, I'm allowed to have a life that doesn't involve you.
I just wanted to stop by and say hi.
Milo, I'll see you at the next appointment, okay?
Okay.
The sex?
Oh, no, I really don't.
Doctor, I think I would love to know the
know.
sex. Doctor, I think that I would love to know the sex.
Okay, I just never really thought my first time was going to be like this.
Did you think any time was going to be like this?
Roger, I don't want to know, okay?
I had my lawyer send some contracts and I figured I'd give them to you now.
Okay, Roger, what is this? You think I'm just going to walk out with this kid or something?
No, Milo, it protects you too. Just sign the paper and get it back to me in the next appointment, okay?
Okay, but I'll see you before then, right? Right?
Just let me know.
Hey, how are you?
Milo, what are you doing here?
Hi, I just wanted to stop by and talk. And,
Milo, you can't just show up out of nowhere. We never start setting boundaries, okay?
Okay, so what are our boundaries then, Roger?
Well, I'd feel a lot better about our boundaries when you return the papers to me.
I just wanted to stop by and say hi.
Milo, how'd you even know I was home? See, this is what I'm talking about. It's weird,
Okay,
Milo.
you're making me sound like I'm crazy, like I'm stalking you or something.
Milo, you know how wonderful I think that you are. I am so excited that my child's gonna have your amazing genes. If she's half as badass as you are, she's gonna do great.
She?
Shit.
Roger, you said you didn't find out.
Milo, No. You know what? No, I'm not sorry for my gender of my child.
What, so now I'm just your surrogate?
This isn't the life I want for my kid. Let me be clear. This is a transaction.
No, it is what I say it is. I am fucking pregnant, Roger. You manipulated me into thinking that this was some sort of friendship.
Is this what a friendship looks like to you? Just fuck this. Just sign the papers and get back to me at the next appointment, or I'm gonna make a fucking problem for you, Milo. Fuck.
Here. I'm sorry I had to make this something that it wasn't.
Milo, I wasn't fair with my feelings either. I liked having a friend maybe even a partner, but I need to figure out how to parent on my own first. But maybe after a while we could. You know, I really like Eddie as a baby name.
Really?
Yeah, it's cute and it's really you. Hey, can I get you anything?
Yeah, actually, you got any gluten?
Of course.
So our final, thank you both very much, the Jedi, or Jadens as I refer to them. Our final event for the evening is going to be limited preparation speaking. And so James Tipton, I want to ask him to get out of the room.
Bye.
Bye, see you later.
An honor. Adios.
So the way impromptu speaking works is James is going to have 7 minutes in total to both prepare and deliver his speech. He's heading outside. He has no idea what he's going to be talking about. So you all are going to be helping us. If you wouldn't mind, if you have a quotation that you would like James to speak on this evening, I'm going to farm them out from you all. So it can be anything from Shakespeare to Lil Uzi Vert, as we learned last night for our showcases. So yes.
He pressed all my buttons and left no fingerprints. Avelino Hamner.
Okay, so a quotation from one of our students. Okay, yes. Robert who?
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Okay, so we've got one from our student, one from Robin Williams. Yes.
Now watch me hit this drive. George W. Bush.
Now watch me hit this drive. We got the W in the house. Great. Yes.
Young Savage, why you trapping so hard?
Why are you trapping so hard, Young Savage? Okay, so far we've got. Remind us of these so far. I'm going a little fast. So what was yours again?
He pressed all my buttons and left no fingerprints. By the Avelino.
Okay, and then what was yours again by Robin Williams?
It was if women ran the world, we wouldn't have wars. Negotiations.
Okay, and then we've got Watch Me
Now watch me hit this drive by the W.
by the W. Fantastic. What else did we have? Was there one more?
Young Savage.
Young Savage, that's right. Yes.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
But Mike Tyson are great. Me too. Yes.
And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good.
Look at that. We get some literature in here as well. Rich Baby Daddy Gang, Drake. Okay, so we've got quite a few options here. By a show of hands, and you only get one vote, which one of these would you like James to talk about this evening? So, would we like pushing all my buttons, not the Pussycat Dolls? Pushing all my buttons. That was an old Pussycat Doll song. Pushing all my buttons, leaving no fingerprints by Avelino Hamner. Any voters for that one? We got 2. Fantastic. 3. Womp womp. It's done. All right, so then we're going back to Robin Williams. Any votes for Robin Williams? That one out as well. Okay, then we went to, what was the Young Savage one?
Why you trapping so hard?
Why are you trapping so hard? Any votes for Young Savage? We get 1. Okay. How about Watch Me Hit This Drive? George W. Bush. I think we've got some dark horses here for the latter half of these. We got 3. Okay, and then what was it again? How many votes for this one? 1. Okay. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face by Mike Tyson. A more popular one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And then what was yours again? Rich Baby Daddy Gang.
Let's go.
By Drake. We've got how many? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, wait, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have a tie. So it's between Rich Baby Daddy Gang. So everyone gets to vote one more time. It's between Rich Baby Daddy Gang by Drake and Everyone Has a Plan Until They Get Punched in the Face by Mike Tyson. Let's go Drake first. How many for Drake? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, 17. And for Mike Tyson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so
I'm so intrigued.
So just to clarify, it is Rich Baby Daddy Gang. Great.
Amen to that.
Rich.
Okay, so I have the quotation here. Steve K, would you mind getting James? Yeah, I'll do that. So please welcome James. So the quotation is on the other side of this paper, and so your time will begin whenever you flip it over. I'll give you your 15 seconds grace to read the prompt. I'll give you 30-second verbals for your prep, and then I'll count you down from 5 minutes left, 4, 3, 2, 1 minute left. Okay. This is my 30 seconds, my 15. I'll give you the last 5.
Would it be possible if you sit in the middle of the room? So sorry. I know. Flipping that.
That's 15. Prep begins. Thirty seconds. One minute.
James Remage is a third grade trendsetter in Chelsea, Maine. A few years ago, he started wearing a suit and tie to school every single day. At first, his fellow classmates didn't know what to think, but eventually they came to embrace his rich look. And now, students every single week at Chelsea Middle School celebrate Dapper Wednesday, where they dress for their finest third grade success. It's this idea that people can create change by taking knowledge of others and their rich outfits that leads us to today's quotation. Rich Baby Daddy Gang by Drake. What we can interpret from this is that the rich baby, or our children, often can learn and rely on our parents or our daddy gang for knowledge. We can agree with this, arguing that we need to learn from what is told to us. We can see this through two areas of analysis. First, we often try to neglect our past wisdom. But second, open sharing of knowledge can lead to community growth. First, we often try to neglect our past wisdom. We say that we don't need to rely on our daddy gang, that we have everything we need right here. But that mindset is often detrimental to us. And we can see this through two examples. Dolphin LSD and Twitter peak. First, the 1960s was the decade of the dolphin. People had just figured out the dolphins could talk to each other, and we really wanted to talk to them too. The only problem is that we tasked this project to a NASA-funded research organization based out of the Caribbean, which gave dolphins and themselves lots of LSD, and then just tried to speak to them in the hopes that eventually they would speak back. However, they completely neglected the wisdom of actual dolphin scientists, who all universally came to the consensus that dolphins' vocal cords had no ability to produce English. But they kept trying anyway, and inevitably failed, meaning that due to their neglecting of the fact that past scientists had already disproven their concept, we still can this very day not talk to dolphins. But second, the Twitter peak. In 2009, a new phone was born. It couldn't text, it couldn't call, and it couldn't access the internet. It could only send and view tweets. The product was described by reviewers at the time as so dumb, it makes my brain hurt. Mostly because the engineers of the Twitter peak completely neglected what people actually wanted in a phone. Something that could call people or text them. Especially because all smartphones at the time could already access Twitter. The Twitter peak was doing nothing new because they completely neglected what people actually wanted, neglecting that wisdom. So, through the examples of dolphin LSD and the Twitter peak, we see that we often neglect the wisdom of our baby dad. And that can lead us to horrible, horrible mindsets going forward. But second, open sharing of knowledge is how we create growth. Because when we actually communicate with people around us, we actually bring in the knowledge of others, we're able to grow as people. And we can see this through two examples. The Space Tomato Mystery and the Lockdown Besties. First, earlier in 2023, NASA harvested their first ever tomato on the International Space Station. The problem is, just a few days after it was harvested, it went missing, spawning an 8-month-long mystery of where the tomato went. Scientists aboard the ISS started talking to each other, alleging that someone must have eaten it or taken it or done something with it. But in reality, it's just because they didn't talk to each other. Because one scientist moved it to somewhere else and then left and didn't share where he actually put it. So the 8-month mystery, losing the first ever space tomato, was all because they didn't share their knowledge, proving that if they did share the knowledge, they would be able to continue the science and research instead of having to pause it for 8 months straight. But next, the lockdown besties. When Barbara entered the COVID-19 pandemic, she was struggling. She had just lost her husband, and I was living in a brand new city all alone. But at the advice of a mutual friend, she met up with Susie for a socially distanced coffee date, and they hit it off instantly. They shared their wisdom and knowledge with each other, working to go through their collective trauma and become better because of it. And today, they're now besties, traveling across Europe together and working to share their knowledge with others around them, saying that when we just open up and talk to others about how we are feeling, we're able to actually achieve growth within ourselves. So, through the two examples of the space tomato mystery and the lockdown besties, we understand that when we share knowledge with others around us, it can lead to personal and community growth. So, return to today's quotation, Rich Baby Daddy Gang by Drake. What we interpreted from this is that children are often reliant on their parents for knowledge. We agreed, arguing that we need to learn from what is told to us. We saw this through two areas of analysis. First, we try to neglect past wisdom. But second, open sharing of knowledge is how we achieve our own personal growth. So next time you find yourself thinking that you really don't want to share the knowledge of your daddy gang before you, Neglect that mindset and instead take the mindset of James Ramage, sharing your dapper fits with your whole community.
Rich baby daddy gang indeed. Thank you all so very much for coming out this evening. This is round 2 of 3 nights. And so we had different performers last night than we did tonight. We're going to have different performers tomorrow night as well. So if you enjoyed this, come on out. If you didn't enjoy it, come on back. You're going to have different stuff to watch. Same for all you out there. Thank you all so much. And roll Tide.
Roll Tide.